King James. Like King James.
Sounds like it is straight from the motherfucking cassette.
I hate when you get to a point in your career where people feel like they got you figured out and there's no more surprises. I like people to press play on my stuff and still be surprised.
Turn it up, baby. All the stuff's necessary, yo. Hey, yo. Okay. Hey, yo. Son.
Two, one.
Welcome back to the Dusttin Bowerman Show. Dusttin with 2 T's back here once again. We're live on this Fuck It Friday, January 29th, 2021. I didn't get the day wrong unlike yesterday, but I still have a chair in the middle of the fucking screen. So, as per usual, we're a pretty scuffed show, pretty scuffed format, but it's entirely my fault, you know? We can't blame anybody else here besides me, because, to be honest, it's nobody else besides me's fault, the reason that this stinks pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. But, guys, we have an important guest today. We're going to announce him in just a second. Before we do that, we'll have Max and Anthony join me here on the show. What's going on, Max and Anthony? How are you guys recovering from, the Doge stonks? How are you guys doing?
I'm
out. Yeah, I got out.
Oh, my God. They did terrible. They're all dead. The voices behind the scene are all dead. But, besides that, I guess we just got to announce Slasher here, boys. So let's we'll bring him in. We'll get him ready. You know what I'm saying? We'll get him into the show ASAP. We got him quick here. We'll get him into the show. Because to be honest with you, so we're doing it a little bit different. We had to move everything around. We were going to have Fee on today as well as Slasher, but that kind of changed. So we're having Slasher on first, and then we'll go on through our normal broadcast. So it's a little bit different. Our guest today, though, is a man who's, according to his Twitter bio, world's #1 esports consultant, an insider, a competitive gaming leader, and the internet's first internet culture expert. Slasher,
Let's go.
How you doing, man?
Thank you, Slasher.
I had to do it. It wasn't. Listen. It was not exactly ideal. I understand, but it's like It was because of VMix. Okay, we had to follow.
Wait. I'm hearing you twice.
Opposite.
I'm hearing you twice. Why am I hearing you twice?
This is because VMix. You gotta mute VMix. Leave Discord. Right-click the site, as Daniel said. Sorry, guys, we're going through some. This is the first time we're having a guest on right as the show starts. Can
you intro me in the meantime?
Max wants an intro.
Yeah.
Listen, it's Fuck It Friday, okay, guys? This is not exactly the situation that we Slasher's not prepared for this. It's because of our.
Oh my God, you're
fault,
fucking.
Honestly,
it actually is your fault because no one told me to do this, and I didn't think it was gonna double do it.
Sorry.
Wait, I still don't know what I'm doing. Where is it? Where is it? I've done this before, but now I don't know what I'm doing.
You got to give us a moment here, boys. All right, we'll cut back to the normal camera.
I don't.
I'll make sure
okay.
Here on
All right, we have done it. We have successful.
We fixed it?
Yep. No. Again, no thanks to you.
Okay.
Your team has helped me. Dustin, you have done nothing. But bring me pain so far. But your team's doing great. All credit to them.
You. Yeah.
0.
It's just like Overwatch.
0-2.
I'm getting carried again by my team. Everything, it's the exact same shit, bro. It's honestly. How you doing, though, dude? Thanks for coming on. I'm sorry it was pretty scuffed, honestly. It is entirely my fault, but how are you doing?
I mean, dude, I do a show called The Scuff Podcast, and we did it last night, and I do it until 5:30 in the morning. I'm still dead because I've been waking up every morning at 8 in the morning to get ready for the markets to open because our economy is collapsing here in America. So that's cool. But like, I am so fucking tired. You cannot get more scuffed than the Scuff Podcast. Everything you're doing is fantastic compared to Trainwrecks. You are a maestro compared to the hosting ability of Trainwrecks. Anytime you think you have a Scuff show, don't worry. There is something 100 times as scuffed and fucked as what you're doing. So be proud of yourself. Be proud.
If it works, it works, though. I mean, you guys, like you said, you're waiting for the market to open every day, or you pretty much stay up till 5 a.m., you said,
well,
right? I mean,
the show was, no, because we did the show. I stayed up. The show, we're supposed to start at midnight, but the show is so, you have a fucking schedule, Dustin. You want to talk about how you say,
guys don't have a schedule?
I'm a Scuff show, blah, blah, blah. No, you at least go live every day at the same time. We're supposed to go live at midnight EST each week, and we don't end up actually going live until 1:30. Trainwreck stalls for an hour and a half, and then the intro takes an hour. Okay, this is not a fucking joke. This is not a meme. I'm not exaggerating. It's not sarcasm.
An hour.
It takes an hour for Train to get through 10 people. It's a fucking clusterfuck. That shit is scuffed. So the show ended at 5:30 in the morning. I actually passed out while the show was live. I told the show,
really?
I told the show, I'll be right back. I gotta go get a drink, and I just went to bed. I just went to bed.
So you just never show back up?
No, there's a clip on Livestream Fails now of some other conversation they're having, and it's just an empty chair. where I am right now.
I mean, that's a good point, Slasher. I just wanted to bring it up because this, I mean, to be honest, we're gonna be jumpy here because like I have a lot of questions for you specifically because you've gone through like the ringer in terms of where you've gone with your career over the past like 4 or 5 years, pretty much, right? Like since Overwatch's release. I mean, why did you decide to become more of like an internet historian, I guess, or like an internet consultant kind of, instead of going more towards the traditional esports reporting path?
Somewhat of I mean, it would kind of require a long answer, but I was always this way anyway. For me, I have already been, like, before video games, I wrote about metal, and that's how I started getting into blogging. For several years, around 2009, when the economy collapsed, I was a social media consultant and director for things that were not at all related to video games. It was like a politics website, there was a music website, there were tech websites, there were like gaming stuff. So I've been like involved in other things that are not just like esports and gaming my whole life. But I mean, I put most of my focus and effort, and most of my work experience was directed into esports and a few games specifically because I love esports and I love those games. Like, I mean, I got into all of this because I loved Quake as a game, and then Quake's just happened to start esports. And then I got into that, and I've been watching Counter-Strike for, you know, like over 20 years now. So I've always tried to like work even in the games that, you know, I really love. I mean, like League and Dota have been the biggest games for what feels like 10 years now. And I fucking hate MOBAs. I don't like Dota. I don't like the genre. That's why I really still...
You've been tweeting about, though.
I mean, of course I have to, because it's like, if you're like a sports journalist and you don't like, you can't just ignore the NFL, even if you... Unless you're really, really on one sport, which is totally fine. I think like that's okay. I mean, your main sport or esport has to be big enough if you only want to do one game, and that's definitely an issue more for esports than sports, because like League of Legends, even covering it is not the same as like covering the NBA. You can cover the NBA as a singular person. As we see, even the biggest esport has some problems and difficulties if you're independent media trying to cover shit. But anyway, I've been like covering all things like my whole life, and I was always going to be planning to cover like all of Twitch culture and internet culture and video game culture and other video game stuff that's not just esports. I just really love esports, and then a few specific games, because we played against each other in Overwatch. See, unlike most other people in this community and in this industry who go on to like casting gigs or who want to be like an analyst or doing this or that, like only a small percentage of those people are ex-pro players, such as yourself, who you really know how it is to play the game. Most of the traditional journalists we have in this space and a lot of the analysts, they're fucking bad at the video game. And that's always been like something for me. I've grown up with a lot of colleagues in this industry. I got a lot of respect for a lot of people. But
they're just shit at gaming.
They are, and like that to me is a big deal. And that's a whole argument and discussion within itself. But I've always felt like, look, if Overwatch the game just came out, you are not going to be able to be a top-tier analyst by just watching scrims and doing your due diligence and doing research. Like, all of that is necessary, and you could definitely get yourself to a certain level just by, watching games and analyzing them and going through demos and talking to players, and all that shit is very important. But you need to play the fucking game. The Overwatch is less than 5 years old. If you're not playing the game, then you're really not able to experience like what the game is. So I prided myself a lot over my life, and I'm fucking old now, at being good at the video game. So for me, I wanted to get really into Overwatch. I wanted to play Overwatch at like the highest level that I could, being an old man journalist, media person. And that's like why I did that. So like, I like to be the games that I am. I like to like focus a lot of my efforts on like Counter-Strike and now Valorant, because I really like to play the games. But as like a job and a career, if I want to get the most out of what I want to do, I have to be able to expand to what like is necessary right now. And considering I like covering all that stuff anyway, it's not like it's a problem. I like doing this shit. I've just always wanted to put most of the effort into, like a few games that I am regularly playing myself over a long time.
Yeah, but it's just like fun to report on everything Twitch culture, like you said, in kind of that area. And you mentioned Valorant too, because I think we've talked. I mean, you said like Overwatch has been out for 5 years, but it seemed like for Overwatch, Blizzard was like trying to push for it to be a big esport from the very beginning, right? And it seems like Valorant's kind of being a similar boat.
I mean, you were there in the beginning,
Yeah.
so I think there's two ways to look at this, and I think, you know, you do have to be very careful of how you know, as I've gotten older and I've been covering this industry and a lot of the other stuff, I've really tried to be more measured in how I look at a lot of situations so I can give, you know, a lot of sides, a lot of room. I try to listen to all the different sides on some things. So there's too many people that say that, in my opinion, there's too many people that say Blizzard forced Overwatch to be an esport. And then there's also too many people that say that Blizzard did nothing to help Blizzard become an esport. And both of them have good points. But to me, who was on around in the beginning, like, I made the OW Discord, and I'm the one that had to, like, help organize to get teams to, like, a scrim channel and to, like, have tournaments. The Alienware Monthly Melee was the biggest tournament for a long time. In all honesty, Overwatch Esports started pretty organically to me. Like, it did have Blizzard kind of like orchestrating behind the scenes this massive, like, franchise league that they wanted to do many years down the road. But in the very beginning, it still was, you know, the ESLs and the DreamHacks and the MLGs and all the other, you know, independent leagues doing their own thing, all the traditional esports leagues getting on, and then people loved playing the game, and the scene kind of developed very organically. Now, then it was pushed to where we are now, which is now having major problems for a variety of different issues with Overwatch League. But I think it's a bit far to say that they forced it to happen in the very beginning. They've definitely made a lot of missteps with how Blizzard and now Riot the same way like to control their esports. But I do think that, you know, look, none of this would happen if the games weren't good to begin with. And, like, Overwatch wouldn't become an esport, and Valorant wouldn't become an esport if the games were garbage and trash. It wouldn't matter what Blizzard or Riot is doing. It wouldn't even matter what the community wanted to do. Without a certain amount of people, without a certain amount of enthusiasm for the base game, then everything is going to fall apart. That is, like, still, to me, the number one problem for Overwatch League. It's not the franchising, which is a big problem. It's not COVID, which is another big problem. It's not even Activision Blizzard's mismanagement, even though that is probably the biggest problem which interferes with what I'm talking about. It is just that the game itself is not only not what it used to be, but it does not bring, like, the certain level of joy for a large portion of the, especially European and American, you know, North American community, especially because a lot of those people were from FPS games. So they don't have the same love for the game anymore. And that has been the number one problem for Overwatch and Overwatch League, not the rest of that shit. So as long as you have that, and Valorant has that, and Overwatch still has that, I actually still, for some fucking reason, believe Jeff Kaplan and Blizzard are going to figure some shit out for Overwatch too. Maybe. You know, as long as that is there, then the esport will always succeed. Generally.
Just not like at an extremely high level. And you mentioned, you know, people, the game has to be good, right? Like, you mentioned how the game has to be good in the first place for it to actually be a good esport, and people have to care, like you said. So it's like when you care about Quake and you care about, you know, that type of genre, the tac shooter or whatever, the arena shooter, and then you see a game like Diabolical come out, but it doesn't succeed. Do you think that's like the end of, like, arena shooters? Like, I know that you personally love Quake and you love that genre. So what do you think what has to happen for an arena shooter to come back? Because they've tried before, right?
I mean, I'm playing Diabolical. I think it's good. But I mean, like, I play it, but it's still not, you know, a ton of users. I mean, arena FPS is very unique in terms of, like, the problem. Like, out of all the different game genres and all the different games that have evolved now, arena FPS has a unique issue. It's still, to me, like, the one of, or if maybe the very best gaming experience I've ever had in terms of, like, the skill cap and the amount of fun and the amount of freedom that you can have to do things, because of the aspect that movement is so much more important in an arena FPS than it is in a tactical FPS or, you know, like a traditional militaristic FPS. However, because the movement is usually so advanced, and along with everything else, it makes getting into the game so incredibly difficult. And I don't know, still, even to this day, how you are able to get past that to become a mainstream title. Teaching people to strafe jump is actually really fucking hard. And like as a concept, that is, strafing is what makes arena FPS. If you're talking about like a Quake or an Unreal Tournament or whatever, that's what makes those games even more difficult. Like Halo, while it doesn't have strafing, actually kind of has still the same problem. Halo is still considered a console arena FPS. No, it doesn't have like the movement of strafing that is an added layer of difficulty that a random newbie has to learn, but it still has all the aspects of rockets and one shot, getting two shot in like a second. And a lot of like, it still has different movement similar as like a Call of Duty does. And because, team deathmatch and a lot of it, like there's a bunch of different problems when it comes to these things, like the barrier of entry, the mechanics, and even more especially, it's the game modes. I mean, you'd think about how popular the Battle Royale game mode has made first-person shooters in the last few years. If imagine if we never had Battle Royale and Blizzard really never innovated on the hero shooter, which was like
it would drop a lot faster.
Too. Yeah, for the last 15 years before that, we've had tactical FPS, which is 5v5, and now finally Riot figured out, that's a good fucking idea to copy. That'll do really well, and it has like Rainbow Six has. But traditionally, you play TDM or capture the flag or domination or any of that shit, and that is as game mode has not been able to really continue to be as popular as the new innovative game modes that is Battle Royale and like hero shooters for a variety of reasons. TAC FPS 5v5 with a timer and an objective is a lot more cohesive to continue on to be a big game than it is to make TDM and capture the flag and shit work. And those are always the games that arena FPS dominated in. So it's really hard to try to, get that to work on a large scale. There's no Quake Battle Royale as it is now. I mean, I'm actually very interested to see if Halo will come with the Battle Royale. There's been a lot of rumors about that. There's been a lot of...
Oh, really?
There's been a lot of...
That'd be a good idea.
Things here and there, if that might happen. And I actually feel like that's kind of necessary at this point. Like if Halo Infinite, and it's been delayed for a variety of reasons too, to help fix that game. If that game doesn't come out, if that game only comes out with oddball, TDM, and capture the flag, I don't think that's a sustainable multiplayer future. Unfortunately, it just is not, it's not able to be as good as it can be. And you also can't do things like the payload. The payload style, I don't think even works in a traditional FPS game. You need classes, but then if you add classes in, it's really hard to do to make a popular game. That's why Battle Royale is such a good fit. It's just like, okay,
it's so easy.
It really is so easy. It's still very difficult to pull it off in a good way, but the concept of Battle Royale is very doable on a larger scale to make a game. So Arena FPS has a bunch of problems. And I don't know if it's going to be really solvable, especially for a Quake-style game. Halo has a much better chance of succeeding with Infinite than Quake does.
Yeah, well, because you bring it up, because I know a lot of older guys and stuff like that do like Halo a lot. Not to call you old or anything, Slasher. You're the one that said it, so I'm just kind of ripping it from your mouth.
It is true.
But like most people in your age bracket, I suppose, like Quake a lot. I mean, I think not recently, but I watched, I think Joe Rogan was talking about gaming. Like he just brought up gaming randomly. He's like, okay, like the only game I know is Quake. And he would bring up Quake over and over and over again. It's like he had this massive addiction to Quake, but it's like that's the only game he knew. And it just seems like Quake had this original flair that just doesn't really transfer to the modern era, right? It's just not really, like you mentioned, strafing. Like strafing is such like, it's something people don't want to learn for some reason. It's just like people don't want to learn the movement because it's like this hidden aspect of gaming where it's like that's like a secondary thing you learn. Like first, it's like aim, do whatever there, but then you have to focus on your movement, right? Why do you think strafing is such a hard concept for like new people to understand? Is it because of the attention span or whatever? That people have?
The whole mechanic was never intended to begin with. When the developer id Software made the game and John Carmack made the game, it was a bug that was exploited, and people figured out you can move faster if you held right and left strafe and you did it, right, left, right, left, right, left, and you move the mouse in a certain way, you can make your character go faster. In retrospect, it is, to me, like one of really the coolest game mechanic of all time. I have not found a better, more fun way to express yourself in a video game than it is.
What about like wave dashing and like Smash?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not a Melee player, so I could watch it and I can appreciate it. Yeah, so I definitely feel like possibly, but like Quake strafing, there's an entire game mode called defrag that you race and you show like how your skills. You make movie montages came from Quake, and there's like these legendary montages, not just of frag movies, but of defrag movies that are all these cool jumps and tricks and like rocket jumping and plasma climbing and double rocket jumping and like all of these other things that you think about when in terms of movement all came from the core ability to strafe and then add on weapons and guns to propel you and do really fucking crazy things. And then not only that, but defrag is split into two fucking different categories because there's literally standard movement, which
there's so much shit to do,
which is Quake 2 and Quake 3 style, where if you're moving forward at a certain speed, you do not have air strafing. There's no air movement, air control.
Oh, really?
You can't turn, like if you're going at a fast speed forward, you cannot directly turn right or left. The movement is already propelling you into a certain way. You have to be able to, while going extremely fast forward, be able to like really maneuver around a map left and right. And if you want to move left or right, you really have to adjust yourself to be able to do it. And there's this entire other mode, which is like Quick World mode, and you see it in other games like Overwatch has, I think, like extremely high air movement acceleration. You can then turn left or right. So you could be going forward at like 3,000 UPS, and then you can move right immediately. And there's like all types of crazy shit that you can really get from this one mechanic that is strafing. So I've always found it extremely fucking cool. But like the skill ceiling is so high for that, on top of there not being a great game mode, on top of the developer and software being completely incompetent and fucking useless at handling their game franchise, and a bunch of other things, that it really is depressing for me. Joe Rogan's fucking right. That game, like Joe Rogan would not have been addicted to any other game but Quake. Quake and Counter-Strike,
really?
The reason that people are still playing Quake and Counter-Strike is really because of how fucking incredible the games are. And if you grew up playing either Quake or Counter-Strike, there almost is no replacement. It's impossible to replace the feeling of what you get playing either of these games. And really only Riot with Valorant has been able to reproduce that. Yeah, like James and Too Good have been able to do that with Diabolical, but it's Too Good. It's my boy Too Good and a few of his buddies who are making the game. It's not Riot, the multi-billion-dollar company with like 1,000 employees working on something. It's a different level there. So it's really, really hard to replicate the addictive feeling that Joe has. Like I played Overwatch. I played Overwatch for 5,000 to 10,000 hours probably, and I played Counter-Strike for many thousands of hours, and now I'm playing Valorant a lot. I don't know if I ever have been addicted to any of them as I have been to Quake.Maybe early Overwatch. The first 2 years of Overwatch was actually a lot of fun. Maybe the first year and a half. Maybe the first year and a half. Really seriously addicted.
And then it went downhill kind of with all the patch changes, tank changes and stuff, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you were there,
but that's, people kind of had to adapt, I suppose, in Overwatch. It was like you either had to learn to enjoy it or, just be burnt out forever and kind of get trampled over by the masses, like all those tank players. And you mentioned, Slasher, you mentioned Quake earlier, and I know, I don't want to hold you for too long, obviously, because this conversation's gone for a bit.
You can ask whatever you want. I don't care.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So, I was wondering, for your, because obviously you've been tracking esports for a long time. You've been watching esports. One of your first that you covered was probably Quake, right? So I want to know, do you think, because it's kind of a different era. So it's like nowadays, because esports is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and is really huge now in either this bubble or whatever else you want to call it, it seems like people have kind of forgotten about the Quake legends almost. Like, would you say like Rafa or somebody in the Quake scene would be or could be considered one of the greatest esport players of all time?
Yeah, I mean, of course, first and foremost, everyone needs to remember the name Fatality. Without Fatality, so many people who've made a living and a career off of esports would not exist. Fatality single-handedly helped create the entire Western esports identity. He was the guy who went on MTV True Life. He was the one that won $250,000 in CPL World Tour in the middle of Times Square on TV at that time. He was the trendsetter that won world championships in 5 different arena FPS games, going from game to game and beating different people in it. He was the one that really helped legitimize esports in the West. He was an American. An American was world champion.
No way.
Beating people all the time. I mean, that was really
that's unheard of now.
Special thing. I mean, though Quake has done a better job than almost any other esport with an international competition. So if you remove things like Call of Duty or Halo, which had traditionally mainly American competition, Quake might be the best game of producing American champions of all time. Fatality was the best player for a long time back then. 04 was the best player for a long time back then. And now Rafa, for what he's been able to do from Quake 3 to Quake Live and now Quake Champions, I think he is undoubtedly the greatest Quake player of all time.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not just like Fatality was one of the best players then, and Rafa is the greatest Quake player of all time. They really are at the level, of to like all of esports. If Fatality didn't happen, we wouldn't have a huge portion of the Western media and mainstream success early on that esports got in the early 2000s, when really people were like, what the fuck is this nerd shit? People playing in their basements, playing games. That was when, you know, all of the stereotypes that we have now, think about how hard it was when there was no $1 million prize money, when it was really just lands in a hotel room. And now we're trying to prove to the media and the outside world, this is a real thing. Fatality went a long way to doing that. And Rafa now has won like 25 international dual titles, like 10 team titles, coming in second place like 20 times. He has really, and he's been able to win championships from this past year all the way back into like 2008 and 2007. So he's been winning world titles for over a decade now, and he really is at the level of, like, when you talk about like the greatest sports athletes, a lot of the time you're probably thinking of like the big sports, whether it's like European, like football, soccer, American football, American basketball, baseball, hockey, all that shit. But it's like you can't forget how incredible Federer is, or Nadal is, or Tiger is in what they do. And really, like, Rafa is the same way. Rafa really has leaped past just being an incredible Quake player, and he's going to be one of the other best players of all time. I would say Cooler as well, the Russian player who played a lot of Overwatch professionally too for some time.
I remember
he actually won. He won the LAN at E-League. I believe he was on that team that won the E-League Overwatch Championship. They've done. He's also been a huge star and a person to really elevate not just Quake, but kind of push more into the larger ecosystem that is in esports and gaming. But definitely, Quake players have been very influential.
Yeah,
in a large way.
I totally agree. And I mean, I know how you mentioned, you know, previously, like it was because of Vitality and because of these people that have actually pushed the scene in a good direction. I mean, it's why you've been on recent, you know, news broadcasts talking about, you know, things revolving around esports and all the like, pretty much. And I think a lot of people were wondering, for you specifically, Slasher, it was like, what is your, probably, like, I think we had a question for earlier, what's your favorite story or thing you've reported on, either on, you know, an official news station, your own Twitter, your own reports, your own articles? What's your most prevalent and your most, like, your the thing you hold closest to your heart and what you've talked about and reported on? Is it like a hard thing to think about?
Maybe. I mean, different ways to think about it. Like, every time that I have to go on TV, it's usually because some fucked up shit happened in the world. And I'm trying to, like, defend and deflect video games from what they're being called. So, like, I've gone on television to talk about the non-relationship between video games and real-life violence and guns, and like guns and video games and real-life violence. I've had to go on TV to talk about how video games are not like being addicted to heroin, and
So,
they're
so you
not
don't like
being
those ones as
addicted.
much,
No,
basically. Right?
I really do enjoy those because I feel like I have a responsibility
Oh
to
yeah.
the esports community, the gaming industry, streamers, to show the mainstream audience, to show normal people that things that are being said by other members of the media or certain politicians is complete fucking bullshit. It's made up. That shit is not real.
Yeah.
And I really do enjoy doing that. I love telling people there's no relationship between video games or real life violence. There's no relationship between guns in video games and guns in the real world. Video games do not have addictive properties like drugs do, even though there are definitely concerns that people need to take it in this way. Video
Yeah.
games are not people that are isolated just by themselves, never talking to people. It's actually very internationally, worldwide communicated
Yeah.
in the industry that people use. I love doing this because I want to show people that gaming, like for the reasons that I got into gaming and why I love esports personally, I want to be able to communicate that to an audience, and I'm able to, get on TV and have these appearances. And I feel like I need to do that. But in some ways, I also, especially more in the last few years, which is again not like something that I love to do, but we have lost a lot of people
Oh
lately
yeah.
in the last few years. We, to cancer, to illness, to mental illness, to suicide. I've lost nearly a dozen friends and colleagues now over the last few years for all of those cases combined. Um, I feel like, especially things like mental health, is for the gaming community is very necessary for us to
Yeah.
discuss and to talk about in a larger way, so that people can get the help they need to. We can try to prevent other instances of this from happening. We can have a larger conversation on the effect of video games and social media and how that could be detrimental to ourselves and how
Mhm.
we can make that better. And I also feel, again, like I have a responsibility because I've been in the industry for a long time. I have either known these people personally as friends or I have covered them for a long time. I need to spread the gospel of who they were and all of the important things they did and why they should always be remembered for the new generation or people that have only come around these last few years. I feel like I need to be able to tell their stories so that their names will be able to kind of last on.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, do you have any of those like names available, like ready, just to toss out there, like to just kind of remember?
Total Biscuit
Yeah.
was a very long term friend of mine.
He's a legend.
He really is a legend. YouTuber, streamer, StarCraft caster, WoW caster. The way he reviewed games. The top hat, of course, the Omega Lol emoji. Lol W will always be better than Keck W,
Yeah.
specifically to honor Total Biscuit and his memory. He really did a lot to innovate the entire world of online gaming media and criticism. And without him, we would not have an entire new industry of people that cover games and like talk about them and review them. Total Biscuit really was
In an open light,
innovative
yeah.
in that way. In Control from last year, Jeff was a very good friend in StarCraft, a legend in StarCraft as a Brood War player and as a pro who moved over into casting. Huge rivalries with Idra and with Noni back in the day. Very good friends with Tasteless and Artosis and very involved in the Brood War community. And then transferring over to StarCraft 2, he was a pro himself for a long time in EG. Very extremely funny guy, did the State of the Game podcast. Some of the best moments that were ever on Twitch or the days of Justin TV were in Control and those StarCraft shows, and just how much he meant to the StarCraft community and the gaming community is really unprecedented for someone in our industry.
Even without that, I mean, he was into Warhammer. He was going on, RP. The D&D original D&D stuff by ItMeGP was with him. He was in those as well. I mean, he's kind of been a part of all the beginning of pretty much all esports and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, like these guys are my friends. It's really hard that they're not here anymore. And then you have like a most recent case with Reckful, which we have known each other for a long time. I wasn't as close with him as I was with John and with Jeff, but his case, of course, is different. And the mental health aspect from that, I think it also is very important to talk about. And considering who he was, and his legacy of being an incredible World of Warcraft player and the fucking top rogue and everything that he did on Twitch to innovate, being, such a successful streamer, one of the best and funniest IRL streamers for a long time, all of his moments in WoW and, what he's done on that side of the industry, I think is very important too. So, I unfortunately have like more names because I feel like this is happening too much lately. And I feel like I do have a responsibility.
Yeah, and you mentioned mental health being like the biggest aspect, or one of the biggest aspects since COVID-19 started. And I mean, like specifically over the past now year, pretty much, it's just been like it seems like people are starting to find coping mechanisms, but it's like the first year was rough, right? I mean, I don't want to say that Reckful's passing was because of COVID-19 directly, but it does seem like it was a big contributing factor, right? And it's a big factor, the fact that people don't understand of like what to do, how to, communicate with people, how to go socialize. And it's like people are starting to figure that out now, right? I mean, do you think it's a large part of it is due to COVID-19, or is it just because of society as a whole currently?
COVID is definitely not helping. COVID has definitely accelerated the mental break for a lot of people. You have people cooped up and stuck inside. Like I've been social distancing as a lifestyle for a long time. I'm not as affected as maybe other people, but people are not meant to be locked up in their apartments or their houses for several months at a time. Like, all of the not being able to see your family, not being able to see your significant other, not being able to see your friends, not being able to go out and do stuff, not being able to have the normal life that you're living. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you don't have, money. We don't have COVID relief in this fucking country because the government is totally incompetent and incapable of doing anything. And, you put all these factors together and it can get even more of a toll on people than things that are already happening before COVID started. So, Reckful had been going through a lot of issues way before COVID. What was a thing? There were definitely things going on there that was not just directly impacted related to COVID, but COVID has definitely caused, it's definitely caused a lot of problems with people, and it's been hard. Yeah.
So do you think that, because I know this is a little bit of a shift of a topic, but I know you've been tweeting about it as well when we've been talking about it all day, because it's obviously one of the more prominent news, at least in the esports scene, at least in the Overwatch scene, specifically with Valiant dropping their entire roster due to quote unquote COVID related visa issues. Is that like disingenuous as fuck? Is that like that's just fucking rude to just straight out say, like, not only they're blaming COVID for the release of their players when it's directly their fault, basically. They just sold out. And they just say it's COVID-related issues? Like, what's with that?
IGC,
IGC is so
really,
shit.
It's actually not surprising to see that IGC would fuck up even, like, their announcement message. Yeah. Like, to actually screw up and to piss off people even more by deflecting it on COVID, of all things, is incredible, but also not surprising given IGC's track record of being absolutely miserable at their jobs and of what they've done so far. I mean, I just made a tweet right before I came on the show, but IGC has totally betrayed the Los Angeles Valiant fan base and really like what is supposed to be.
They did the same thing.
What's supposed to be like a localized franchise in the Overwatch League. Like that is the whole point of this. So they're betraying the entire fan base and the players that are on there, dropping all of them and the coaching staff. So they've pissed off their own people. They've given notice to like other free agents that this is a totally fucked up franchise and why would you even want to come sign here when we are not giving a heads up to all of our current players or of our current staffing, and we're getting rid of them. And then the entire fan base, if you're a Los Angeles Valiant fan, why would you want to keep supporting this team? Why not you just go to the Gladiators and the Guardians, whatever, and then go root for another LA team? They have totally ran Optic into the ground, which was one of the most legendary esports organizations in the world. They took the biggest Call of Duty team besides FaZe at the time and totally killed it, to the point where they had to sell it back to Hector for pennies on the dollar because of how fucked up they did with Optic. They've taken MIBR, a totally legendary Brazilian esports organization, the most popular esports organization in Brazil, which is a hugely lucrative market considering how big the Brazilian esports industry is and how popular it is there. They've taken MIBR and fucked it up multiple times over Counter-Strike with multiple different teams, all failing, letting them all go, letting all of them collapse to be a shell of the former selves. And Immortals itself, the brand that the IGC is based out of, is a total irrelevant shell of what it used to be since Noah Winston founded it and molded it and created it to what it was. So IGC has been a total disaster so far, and they have definitely been one of the very worst larger esports ownership groups in this entire industry. It is not surprising to see that they even fucked up what would be.
How did it go so fucking wrong? Like, what the hell happened to them to actually fuck up this bad? I mean, was it just because they dumped lots of cash and just kicked Noah Winston to, what is it, executive president or something like that? Like it's like a lateral move, but he stepped down as CEO.
I mean,
like a downfall.
Noah, things weren't going at the end incredible for Noah either. There were definitely stumbling blocks that were happening there, which is why Noah was pushed out and Ari was brought in to be CEO. But Noah really was like the heart and life and blood of the franchise, and especially of Immortals itself, of the original team. So if the heart of Immortals and the brainchild of Immortals leaves, then the parent company that is IGC, to me, was never just going to be, an easy way to manage this entire situation. It's just like what happens with, with Optic, even though, like, IGC was a big part of why Optic was fucked up. Optic without Hector and Optic without Hex is not Optic anymore. That is, like, kind of the whole point of this. It's not as, like, Optic and Hector isn't as a one-on-one in comparison as Immortals without Noah, because Optic is a much, much longer historical team. Like over a decade.
Immortals is pretty new.
And Immortals is pretty new. But if you remove Noah and you don't have the heart and soul there, and then you do things like buy Optic and think that that was a really good idea. I know part of that was, to get the spot too. And, that was part of it. But, they throwing money at all of these things and trying to do a lot of stuff all at the same time without having, the original founder there to help guide the way. All that's led to is mismanaging every single brand, all of them, all the brands.
Yeah, literally all of them.
Yeah,
they haven't done a good job. It's been awful.
No, they have not. I'm really not sure I don't know what's going to happen to IGC. I would not be surprised if, some of the esports teams might even be sold from IGC, and that IGC tries to pivot away from esports.
From esports?
Yeah, that would not surprise me.
It's because, you can attest to this as well. When you saw Immortals, because like I said, I've also been following it for my entire life, pretty much, at least when I was a kid, pretty much. When I watched Immortals come into CSGO, was pretty much like the first time I saw them. But then I heard, apparently, when they splashed into League of Legends, they dropped, so much money. Like, they absolutely fucking inflated the market, basically. They just came in, balls dropped all over LCS, and they're like, okay, we're paying everybody. And then they inflated the entire LCS market, and, they're getting paid whatever they're getting paid now. And it's like they kept going into every scene with the same strategy. And then, they just, I don't know if they ran out of money or some, a smarter person with more business sense came in and was like, holy shit, we're just dropping money for no literal reason. We need to cut back. Is that seemingly what happened, right? It's like they came in, spiked, and then boom, straight downfall, right?
I mean, buying into LCS is really expensive. There is no more expensive league esports, especially in the West, to invest in. So they really wanted to be a contender. I think Noah actually did a pretty good job at the beginning of making Immortals a contender. Like, they went to playoffs and they had some good runs at the beginning. Like, if you want to be a contender in LCS, you have to spend money, just because of how much that TSM and 100 Thieves now, and Cloud9, and Team Liquid are putting into their rosters, that if you don't spend the money, you're not going to be able to compete. So Noah kind of had to do that, but I think, like, as a whole, that if you're going to have all of these different brands, and we are seeing this with other esports orgs too, you really need to have a good fucking plan on how you're going to afford all of this, and where the money is going to come from, and how this is going to be sustainable, because players need to get paid and everyone needs to make money. But the esports industry is still volatile. It's not as volatile as it was before, but if you're going to spend a lot of money on free agents or to sign a new team, there has to be a roadmap on how they're going to, get an ROI from those players and those teams. And we are seeing a shift now. A lot of esports organizations are bringing on influencers, they're bringing on streamers, they're bringing on content creators, as much as they are spending money on pros. And there are teams like 100 Thieves and probably FaZe that spend more money on their content creators and streamers than they are on the esports team. Because in a lot of ways, you can get better bang for your buck for your advertisers and for your sponsors by getting on those than you can on esports. And that has been a shift overall, from the whole system.
Well, that's it's super weird, because we haven't seen this in traditional sports at all. I mean, there's never been a situation where you could have an NFL player streaming his practice or whatever, right? I think you've talked about this before, even. It's like you can't really replicate what's going on in esports. And in my opinion, it seems like playing professional is just not as potentially valuable as streaming, obviously, like you mentioned. It's just not. And what do you think esports has to do to make sure that, playing, this will be the last question for you, by the way, and we can let you go, but for esports specifically and playing pro, how do you think that these people actually can make it where you don't have to be a streamer and you can actually play full time or whatever? Because right now it's just more profitable to be a streamer, right?
It's more profitable to be a streamer if you're a top streamer. If you're tens and you're averaging 15K concurrent every stream, then it's better for you to quit and be a streamer full time than it is for you to play for Cloud9. I mean, Cloud9, I'm sure, was paying him quite well. Cloud9 has the money to pay their players with a nice salary. It's not like Tens is. I'm sure Tens is actually still getting a solid salary from Cloud9 anyway, just not to be a pro. But I really feel like this issue is most prevalent at the very top. The people who have gigantic streams are the ones who really have to make a decision. It was the same for Seagull many years ago when he was the top streamer. Really. XQC too. They both had to choose whether they wanted to keep on trying to be a pro or they were just going to streaming full time. Seagull, when he left streaming full time to join the Dallas Fuel, he was like a top 5 Twitch streamer on the entire platform. Him playing for Fuel killed his stream. It really did kill the stream. Who knows where he might have been or where he would have gone if he didn't decide to join the Fuel. XQC.
You could say the same for Super even.
For who?
For Super. I mean, Super is not necessarily yet a top streamer just yet, but it's he's kind of waning back and forth. Where it's in this situation, he's losing money playing pro probably, even though his stream isn't necessarily the size of XQC or whatever. He's losing money playing pro, right? And it's just a lot of these people are losing. A lot of the top people, like you said, it's very top heavy, right?
You need to have 10K concurrent. I think if you really, maybe not that much. Maybe you can really make a really good living even at 3, 4, 5K concurrent as long as your subscriber base is extremely strong. You don't need to have a 5-digit concurrent viewership to be able to make the switch, but it really is that decision is hardest for the people at the top than it is for those below. The other thing is some people, including XQC and Seagull, their main motivation was to win a title. Their main motivation was to win a championship, is to play competitively. The drive to play competitively is still in it with a lot of people. Like, for example, Simple, after Navi won the Blast World Championship last week, he went live and he got 60,000 concurrents on Twitch. This entire week that he's been streaming, he has like 50,000 people every single day. He was like the number 1 or 2 streamer on the platform. But Simple is a competitor. Simple wants to win titles. Simple wants to be the best Counter-Strike player in the world every single year. That is his main motivation and goal. It's not necessarily to make more money streaming, even though he could, than it is to play. And that dynamic is also very important. Seagull and XQC at that time, the biggest reasons they went to Overwatch League as opposed to continue streaming was because they wanted to win. They wanted to win the title. And if you're a competitive player and you're competitively minded, that's going to be even more difficult of a decision. Maybe Tens, for example, maybe he didn't have it in him. Maybe he felt like they weren't going to win. The Cloud9 Valorant roster has actually been having some problems in recent tournaments, even with Tens, bragging out and kind of leading the way in a lot of those games. Maybe he felt like he didn't want the pressure of the competition. Like, and that could definitely be a factor of why it's easier for some people to let go of the pro esports, dream, and that it is to stream.
Yeah. Well, I'll make this last question for real this time, but it's like specifically for, like, you mentioned Tens, you mentioned a couple of these other guys in esports, and it's so how do we make this shit, like, for people that want to play professional games and people that are the top streamers, how do we make it so we can keep the top streamers playing pro instead of them going on to streaming? Like, I'm sure if XQC, or I'm sure if Seagull, like, saw a benefit in playing pro for even longer, he would have, right? I mean, like, in the NBA, they're keeping their players for fucking, like, 15 years or whatever sometimes for LeBron James, right?
Yeah,
why doesn't Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but, like, what avenue is LeBron James going to do to make more money than playing pro? Okay, yes, like,
well, that's what I mean. Like, so then, need just more money?
If the answer is that the salaries need to increase across the board, I agree. And I do think I'm always for players making more money and getting better contracts and getting better deals. And I would love to see the salary floor continue to increase. I think it's actually, League of Legends is the best example. The average salary in the NALCS is $300,000, and almost every single player would rather play in LCS than they would to stream full time. There are very, very few people that have chosen the latter. I mean, maybe you had, like, PewDiePie eventually chose to stream full time. Scara chose to stream full time. But I think, like, in those cases, it was like they had big streams, but also they weren't quite able to keep up on the pro level too. Like, it's much easier to decide to go pro if it's hard to get a roster spot or you're fighting for playing time already. If you're like, Tens is a very good example because he was, like, the best player on the team.
Yeah, he's, like,
in a lot of those matches. Yeah,
one of the best players in Valorant, even.
Yeah, so he had a really good reason to continue playing competitively. Seagull and XQC, I love them as players. They were not getting playing time, even on that original Dallas Fuel team. They were not probably the best. Seagull was not the best projectile player at that time.
Or Diva.
No, and XQC wasn't the best tank player on that team also. So, like, it's hard. It's a harder decision. It's an easier decision if you are not at the highest level too. So yeah, salaries just need to go up, and that's going to be able to retain players more. And I think the prestige of winning a championship and just being able to make more money is there. However, I do think esports is going to continue to be, and video games and streaming is going to continue to be in a unique situation that's different than sports because streaming does exist. There's no really equivalent to not playing in the NBA and making more money playing basketball that's not the NBA. Of course, the NBA salary is so high that it makes it so that's not possible, but there is not even, like, a rational alternative to be able to do something that's even remotely close. Like, going to play in that 3v3 league is not able to do it. Making YouTube videos around, like, basketball content is good, but it's not going to be the
I mean, it
same
could
type
be.
of money. No, there is a ton
Imagine
of there is a ton of YouTube content around like basketball type of shit.
Well, yeah,
It's
and
just
you,
not.
have like Bronny, for example, like LeBron James' kid. Like, imagine if he, instead of trying to go pro in the NBA, imagine if he just decided to go stream. Say, fuck it, Bronny joins FaZe Clan for officially and comes stream or whatever. Like, that could be a thing of the future.
I mean,
but it's like
it could be.
it could happen.
Yeah,
it could. But right now, like you mentioned, like esports is pretty volatile. Okay, last one for real this time. Okay, actually for real this time.
Yeah,
Do you think like
Definitely.
it'll ever? Definitely for real this time. Do you think it'll ever be not volatile? Like, do you ever think it would calm down and become a sustainable thing? Or is that something that's going to be like, I don't know, 50 years down the line or something?
Look, a lot of people, and for some good reasons, dislike the franchise model of esports. And there's definitely some problems with it. However, it's still the most stability that we've had in the industry. And like, if you want to look at it, what Riot has done with League of Legends is a much better example of how it can succeed than like Overwatch League with Activision Blizzard. I actually think the Call of Duty League has gone quite well, and most of the owners are actually very happy with how the Call of Duty League has gone.
Yeah.
I mean, because really, if we want to succeed, you need, because unlike in traditional sports, we have people that own the esport. Okay, nobody owns basketball, nobody owns football or soccer or baseball. Okay, those are just things that exist, and then there are different leagues within each different country or organization that happen. People own these IPs. These are IPs that are owned by a company. So it really does require the developer and the publisher, and the industry, which is the teams, the organizations, and the players, to all work together. And really, the only way to do it the best is by a franchise league. I mean, like, I love Counter-Strike. I really like, I love what Dota has done and are doing as games. The success of Counter-Strike and Dota as esports is way more on the games themselves and the independent ecosystem than it ever was Valve. Valve was notoriously kind of like a father that went out for cigarettes and never came back.
Yeah, they've been fucking ass.
They've been gone. They can't fucking contact them. Gabe has never been to like a CSGO major. Yeah, and like...
Oh, he hasn't? He's never been to a CSGO major?
No.
Wow. And he's gone to many TIs, or like a few TIs.
He does the intro every TI.
Yeah.
He does the intro every TI. So, like... The Counter-Strike is so successful, and it's still so popular because Counter-Strike is popular. But if Valve was actually more active, and there probably was a franchise league, I do think the game would still be doing better in a bunch of ways. Like being the independent force and letting ESL and DreamHack and BLAST do their thing is great, and it really is incredible that Valve has been able to allow this third-party ecosystem to evolve and to get bigger, and for all these like different companies to make their own money off of their IP, which you cannot do with Riot or Blizzard, who lock their shit down much more often. However, you still see teams like NRG and 100 Thieves, for example, all leave Counter-Strike lately to go to Valorant. And that is because they've had to make a decision that even as big as Counter-Strike is still probably the number 2 esport in the world. They are not able to make any fucking money off of it. The organizations and the teams are not able to make money. They have not been able to make it work. And that should show something's wrong. Okay. If the game is number 2 and it's bigger than Call of Duty and Overwatch and Valorant still, boards should not be leaving for the other games because they are more financially viable or there's a better path to profitability in those games. So the franchise model, I believe, is what's going to get us there. It has a lot of problems. There's issues. This localization thing with Overwatch and Call of Duty League may not work out in the end. It might. I think it's still a cool idea. But the pros outweigh the cons, I really believe, when it comes to like getting this to a stable level.
Yeah, we just need, specifically for Counter-Strike, and then we just need Valve to even give a single shit about them. It's just been like a constant downturn.
It would be helpful.
It would be. But, thanks for coming on, Slasher, by the way. I know we went a little bit over the time. Specifically like 35 minutes after I told you, how long it was. But thanks for waking up for this, man. Appreciate it after your long night of the Scuff podcast. I hope that goes well tonight. That's happening tonight, by the way, right?
No, it's only once a week.
It's only once a week? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
I'm going to go pass out.
Okay, good.
Right
yeah,
now.
take your fucking sleep. Thanks for coming on, Slash. I appreciate it, dude. Nice
Thanks for having
talking
me,
to you.
Dustin.
Yeah, hopefully we
Be
can get you
nice
on again in the future, bro.
to your fucking co-hosts, okay? Treat them with some respect.
All right.
They're doing your audio. They're doing your video. They're going to take your job. They're going to take your hosting job soon.
Listen, I would understand that, honestly. I mean, I've been dog shit over here, so you know what? We're getting better, okay? Listen, it's an improvement. We're every day, you know? It's an everyday thing. But thanks, Slasher. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll see you later.
Everything's okay, Slasher. We shit on Dustin all the time. Don't you worry.
Yeah, they shit on me literally every day.
Good.
Right, dude.
We have to.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
No, do not. You do not have to. All right, guys. Well, we're pretty much going to continue on with the show, I guess. Well, we went for like an hour and 5 minutes. That was crazy. Slasher has a lot to say. Yeah, he's a smart guy. I respect him a lot, specifically from, the Overwatch days, from setting up the OW. I mean, there was probably thousands of people in that Discord. Like he said, it was pretty grassroots in the beginning, the Overwatch League Discord and Overwatch Discord. It took a while. So we can kind of blast through some of these topics, guys, if you want, or we could just chill, and be happy with the conversation.
I know what the rest of the 25 minutes are going to be.
Listen, man, we can extend it a little bit, all right? Well, we can cut it off. We can touch on a few topics, all right? Listen, it's fucking Friday. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking Friday.
Number one.
What do you mean? No, what is topic number one? Hey, good point. Well, we already talked about it with Slasher. To be fair, we also did talk about it with Slasher. So, it did come through. We did talk about how Valiant, pretty much how we can kind of touch on it for those that didn't actually know what happened. Basically, the LA Valiant has officially released their roster. Basically, so they released their players, their staff, their coaches. Literally everybody is gone. And that was the conversation we had with Slasher earlier. Is IGC, the parent company that owns them, is doing a strange job and has been doing a strange job since Noah Winston's gone. The official tweet from, if I can pull it up here, the official tweet from the Los Angeles Valiant stated, "We want to thank all of our players and staff moving on today from the LA Valiant due to COVID-related visa issues. As we prepare to compete in China this season, we've worked to facilitate the best available next steps for our players, staff, and wish them all the best moving forward. We look forward to having LA Valiant join NYXL and Philadelphia Fusion and bringing more live Overwatch League content to the passionate fan base in Asia during this logistically challenging year." So these guys just straight up said, fuck you. They basically just said, fuck you, LA Valiant players, fuck you, LA Valiant staff. We're leaving. We want no more part of being in any organization, of NA players, NA staff. We're going for a full Chinese roster through the contender scene. And what I've been wondering is, who the fuck are they going to pick up? And how the fuck is, what are they doing? What is Immortals Gaming Club even doing? What the hell is this organization? What's going through their fucking brains to constantly just screw people over like this? It's caused massive outrage. It caused Slasher saw it. We've seen all the casters seen it. Sideshow. The entire Overwatch community is asking, what the fuck is going on with IGC? Who are these guys to come in here and just absolutely fuck over their entire league, their entire playership? Who do they have to fall back on now? What are they gonna do? I don't understand. It's probably the worst top Oregon esports, and they wouldn't even be a top Oregon esports if they didn't invest so much money. If Noah Winston didn't get them so much fucking money to invest in the first place, it's been a constant downturn. And even their investment into MIBR and stuff like that cost lots and lots of money. And then out of nowhere, they're like, "Oh yeah, guys, we can't afford this anymore. Sorry, bye." And they're just trying to sell off assets. They're trying to do a bunch of other shit that's kind of unrelated to this, and that's why it's probably a little bit strange to a lot of the Overwatch fans to see Valiant disappear like this. But if you've been paying attention at all to IGC's track record in esports, it makes sense. It's just been a constant ever since they changed from the Immortals brand to them becoming IGC and building that foundation group or whatever, the investment group. It's been a constant downturn where they're like, okay, this is not worth our money. And that also brings up the point. It's like, are esports teams worth the money right now? Is it even worth investing in if it's such a big challenge? And as Slasher said, you need a roadmap. And the roadmap to create a successful esports team is fucking hard. Not everybody can do this shit. And that's why LA Valiant hasn't done too well in their own regard. It's just been a constant downturn for them. And to be honest with you, I'm not excited for whatever the fuck they're going to do in China. Like, who the hell are these guys going to pick up in China? Who the hell is LA Valiant going to pick up from the Chinese contender scene that people want to play for? Like, this org just dropped all of the people on the roster for literally no reason besides the fact that they just want to make some money on their organization. And now, what I want to know is, what are people going to do about this? What are LA fans and LA players and LA people that Overwatch League fans, what are they going to do about it? Do we need a fucking players union? Do we need Overwatch League to be more successful? Do we need the owners and the actual companies, IGC, to take ownership to what the fuck they've just done? Do they need some sort of repercussions? There's a lot of questions I have, and I don't think they'll be answered. At least for IGC. Like, these guys have absolutely fucked it up. They've blundered the whole goddamn thing. The organization has been on a downturn for now a while, and to me, it's just obvious that they've been dog shit and how they've been treating their players and everything. Like, it's undeniable. Like, we've been calling it out since the very beginning, and now it's just become more into light, basically. That's all it is. It's just kind of bullshit. And I don't even think a players union would stop this kind of thing. It's just like, but for Overwatch League specifically, teams and players can only invest so much money. You know, and I think Immortals Gaming Club has reached that point. They're capping the money they can spend, and now we're looking to kind of recoup their assets. Like Slasher said, they could be trying to recoup their assets to just leave esports as a whole and go do some sort of other investment shit. Like, at this point, they might as well leave. Like, just say fuck them, right?
Oh,
I mean, Max, oh yeah?
It's for COVID. It's
for COVID,
problems.
Man. COVID, that's so disingenuous.
Do you think
Fucking
that has any truth?
So apparently, according to Sideshow, I'm glad you're bringing that up, Max, because according to Sideshow on Twitter, he said, and I just realized this as well, this instance has been seen before, where basically they're trying to say it's a COVID-related visa issue so that they can keep their 7 players technically on the roster. So they can keep them on the roster while they transition and pick up more Chinese players. So they're using this as an excuse, a loophole in the Overwatch League rules, which hasn't been changed, by the way, since the last instance of this with the Washington Justice and what they did with Korea and trying to make it for into the playoffs for Overwatch League, where basically the Justice had a player, I don't remember his name, I think it was Lude something. I don't know. Anyway, they had a player where basically the Washington Justice had an American roster. They had a mixed roster, but they couldn't drop all their players yet. Because if they dropped all their players, they would drop below the 7-player minimum requirement, and that would mean they also couldn't go to Korea. So what they did is if they made it to Korea, they would technically keep one of their players on the roster, but he could look for a team. But they would keep him on the roster so that they could bring in Decay and a bunch of other Koreans, so they can make it a Korean roster instead of a mixed roster, and so that could go to Korea. So they're basically using their ex-players to kind of loophole the system, if that makes sense, so they could actually progress. And that's like what LA Valiant's doing right now. They're using this loophole that still hasn't been changed, mind you, to drop all these players after the fucking trade deadline is done, and after all of this bullshit of signing players is fucking done, pretty much, or like when everybody's already kind of confirmed their rosters, basically. Everybody's already took the rosters. Like, half the players on this team will now not have a paycheck because of LA Valiant, because they decided to switch. They could have potentially. Like, I think 1 or 2 of these players, the potential is there where they lost money because LA Valiant is using them in this loophole, basically. Because they're using them in this loophole. And I don't even think it's entirely because LA Valiant planned for this to happen. I doubt the Immortals Gaming Club planned, like, we're really going to fuck over these players. I'm looking forward to it, It's like, I bet they kind of had this idea that they were going to sell or at least manage the LA Valiant, or have a Chinese organization manage LA Valiant for a while. And I think it was in the works, similar to how, like Slasher mentioned, Optics deal with IGV or IGC. Kind of like that, where it was looking like it was going to fall through, maybe. Like, these deals, there's tons of deals happening behind the scenes that you're not aware of. Like, a lot of these deals behind the scenes are happening, like this one. Like, I guarantee you there's 10 more, like this IGC deal with the Chinese company. I mean, there's probably like 10 more like organizations going through the same thing. And it's just that this one happened to be in the public, and this one happened to be extremely, extremely bad. And it's just awful for LA Valiant, the players specifically, because they basically abused these players. They used and abused them. Like, they could have potentially had a tryout before all this was happening. They could have just dropped them at the beginning. But because of their deal, this happened. I mean, I guess it's good for IGC because, maybe they're not losing out on millions of dollars where they thought they would before, but it's coming at a cost, Like, what's the cost? Everything? It seems like it's everything for IGC at this point, honestly.
Like, what? I guess there must be some kind of money in China right now. There's already 4 teams over there. I guess there's no team in Beijing. Maybe they they have there, because now they have absolutely no future in LA or even
No,
anywhere in the West.
they absolutely
They
don't.
just said bye-bye.
They just left.
At all.
No,
Their
they
entire fan
absolutely
base
fucked it.
is gone. They didn't really have like a stable roster like when they were here though, right?
So pretty much what happened in the previous year, that I'm glad you bring that up as well, is because in the previous year they had like a solid roster. They invested a decent amount of money, but it's been like a constant downturn basically for them, Max. Like every year they've pretty much the last year that they played, which they overexceeded expectations, by the way. LA Valiant they surpassed expectations last year, but I'm pretty sure they signed like everybody besides maybe like KSF and a couple others to like min salary. So like a minimum contract basically to the Overwatch League, because they were at such a budget standpoint. They were like, okay, we need to be full budget in this scenario, and that's why they just said, okay, fuck it, we're gonna drop all these players this year because we're out of money entirely. Like they couldn't even afford the minimum salary or something, or they just decided it wasn't worth paying. That they just left the Overwatch League is basically what happened, and it's been like a constant. Like I said, it's just been a downfall. It's been a downhill trend, and not like Dogecoin. I think Daniel said like Dogecoin. Listen, I'm not a financial advisor, but not like Dogecoin. Hold it to the moon! Diamond hands, guys.
There we go. We gotta buy Valiant coin now.
We gotta buy Valiant coin. No, actually not. Just ditch Valiant. Sell Valiant while you can. Sell your Valiant stocks, your fan stocks ASAP. Fucking sell it ASAP.
I would have sold that years ago.
What, Dogecoin or Valiant?
Valiant. Or not years
Valiant.
ago. The moment they did this.
Yeah.
It was all downhill from there. I don't even know what they're gonna do after this.
Have they announced that they sold the team or basically sold the team to a Chinese company?
They actually didn't. They've announced, so they basically said we're just preparing for China. They said this is like a they went to China moment. Like it's like there's the XQC meme where he would say like they went to Korea. This is like a they went to China scenario. Like this is absolutely them not even admitting to it, like they're trying to tiptoe around the situation. They're like, we're going to China. Wow. And they haven't officially announced anything just yet. They're just kind of tiptoeing around it. Yeah, it's kind of bullshit. That's what I said. This is all fucking dumb excuses. Like, stupid.
What are they
I don't
doing,
like it,
man?
What is LA Valiant doing? Just fucking up their organization. IGC is fucking it up. Listen, I'm okay to talk about it, honestly, because they deserve to be talked about in a bad light. IGC has been downhill for a while, you know? It's just been downhill for a while. We're going to talk about, let's go to two more topics before we end the show today, boys. Custa said, we're going into Boston, apparently? Oh, come on, man. Listen, no, don't fucking buy in Boston stocks, okay? Just because another organization is willing to dip their fucking toes low enough in the waters to absolutely hit that, like, deep of a fucking pool, you know, in terms of paychecks, in terms of budget, like, doesn't mean you gotta fucking put money on Boston, okay? You don't gotta support the fucking guys that have been absolutely trashing our league since the goddamn beginning. You know, Boston, if anything, should get more fucking criticism for what they've done in the past couple of years. You know, not committing more money, not putting more money onto their players and staff. I guarantee you, Soon probably took, like, near minimum salary contract. Like, I doubt Soon's getting paid that much money. Like, Boston's still shit. Boston is still fucking shit. Nothing has goddamn changed. Okay, Boston is, I don't know who's worse at this point. Boston's probably worse because they've been fucking worse of an organization for a longer time, you know? It's like there's no situation that's a positive here. How about you become a fan of a team that actually invests in their organization, and how about that you become a fan of a team that actually wants to win fucking championships? Like Shock, like Gladiators, or somebody that's at least putting money into their fucking team. Because these you shouldn't support these teams that are just trying to scrape by with the bare minimum. That's the only way that we get our fucking revenge as fans and as people, fans of the Overwatch League, because I'm a fan of the Overwatch League at this point. I'm a big fan of Overwatch. As fans, it's our duty to not be fans of these shitty fucking organizations that set a shitty precedent for Overwatch League. We shouldn't be fans of these fucking teams that are just willing to spend minimum salary to just fucking exist in the Overwatch League. How about you just become fans of more teams that actually invest money into Overwatch League and actually want the scene to grow? And actually, like Florida Mayhem or whatever, some of these teams, that Shanghai Dragons, that are actually willing to put money in instead of fucking supporting these shitty-ass companies that are just willing to toss away your favorite players like it's fucking chump change. Because after this, after LA Valiant, guess what? Agility said he's not even competing in Overwatch League. Agility's fucking said he's not even competing in Overwatch League. He would have competed in Overwatch League if LA Valiant was continuing on this year. He would have competed. Guess what? He's gone now. One of the prominent faces of Overwatch. One of the best Genjis of all time in terms of popularity in the West. Okay, he's fucking gone because of fucking LA Valiant. He's just left. How about you support some of these organizations that are willing to put money in? Okay, that's rant done for that. I don't think LA Valiant's going to improve. I think it's a constant downturn for them. Boston Uprising, fuck them as well. Everybody that's putting budget salary in, London Spitfire, Paris Eternal, fuck these organizations that have been absolutely leaving our scene. You know, at this point, listen, they've invested, they've done well in the past, but some of these orgs have been a constant downturn, and I don't think it's something that we should be proud about or we should be happy about. You know what I'm saying? All right. We're going to move on, though. I'll be a little bit less toxic. I'll be a little bit less upsetty spaghetti. We'll talk about two more of these topics because we don't have much time left, and we've been here for a little bit. There's some upsets in the Valiant tournament. We're going to skip the other two. You know, Iman got signed to SS Shock. That's huge. An Indian pro for cheating. That's huge. But we talk about cheaters every fucking day, boys. Okay, listen, we talk about cheaters every goddamn day. It's time to move on, okay?
Signature segment.
Do we go back to it then? Okay, fine. We'll go back to it. We'll go back. We have to talk about it. We have a cheating segment. We're fucking up with Daniel here in the background, our director in the background. We're going to talk about the Indian Valiant pro that admitted to cheating. Who has the story on this one, boys? What basically happened with this guy? We have a cheater segment, guys. I mean, honestly, it's just hilarious because we've talked about this like every fucking day. There hasn't been a day we haven't talked about cheaters, has there?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, basically, this dude, he got ratted out by his teammate, Binks, originally.
Again?
Yeah, he got ratted out first.
What are these with these snitches?
Hey, I mean, like we said before, it's for their own safety.
Yo, but come on, man. Don't be a fucking snitch, dude. Snitches get stitches, okay? Still. Rings true, okay?
Maybe. But, yeah, he got exposed for using hacks in games.
Okay.
This, I don't even know how you say his name. It's like XHADES. I'm just going to say X-Hades.
X-Hades? Yeah, X-Hades maybe? Something like that?
Or X-Hade? I don't know.
X-Hade?
Yeah, maybe there's not an S. But he after that, he did admit to using hacks while on the team, supposedly only for boosting his rank. Who knows how true that is?
So he just said this like to just like kind of fucking. He's like, oh, I was only boosting my rank.
Yeah, he said he wanted to get it to Radiant, and that's supposedly all he wanted to do. And he said it's only wall hacks. No one knows if there's more or not.
It's only wall hacks.
I didn't do any aim hacks. No, it's only wall hacks.
It's no word.exe in a CSGO major, so that was something. Genuine aimbotting in that one. We don't know if there was aimbots here.
No, this guy's just fucking
get away with this if he's only using wall hacks.
He's been banned permanently, so there is no coming back from that.
There's no coming back.
His teammate Binks was banned for 3 months for account sharing, since apparently that was a thing he was doing too.
So I think the biggest thing I think that we should talk about here is that we shouldn't really necessarily hate on the Indian scene, because I think they're trying to basically denounce this guy, right? Like it's like people have been seeing the Indian scene. Yeah, they're trying to put him down, and that's good because to be honest with you, like there hasn't been too many great. Like the Indian scene's kind of underrated. I think there was. I don't know if the Indian organization when Optic Gaming got like Indian team in Counter-Strike, I think, or something like that, like years ago. I don't know if my math is or like my history isn't fully in check here. But it's like the Indian scene as well is like actually an underrated market that's kind of been underlooked for like a while. And it seems like the only time it's talked about in the West is when like a cheating scandal happens. Like that guy with the Word docs exe document, I think that was an Indian guy or whatever. So It's like in this situation, it's like every time the Indian scene's brought up in the West, it's just like, it's just not good news. And that's just unfortunate for the Indian scene because they shouldn't have to, live and die by these fucking cheaters. Like that shouldn't be how the scene is known or whatever. And Optic Gaming tried to invest in them and get a little bit more good publicity on the West, but it's been fucking shit. And at this point, we have to talk about this troll that was using cheats in the fucking just wall hacks. It's just wall. That's actually a fucking good T-shirt, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god. We thought of a good. I'm just using walls. I'm just aim hacking, bro. Calm down. It's just game. Why you have to be mad?
I want to touch on something entirely irrelevant. I want to see Max's shirt just entirely on screen real quick.
What is your shirt, Max? Stand up.
It's one of my favorite shirts I've ever seen.
Cha-cha real
smooth.
Ew!
Ew, dude, what the fuck is that?
I love that shirt.
What is that jig? What the fuck was that jig, Max?
It was real smooth.
Cha-cha real smooth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, that's fucking great. Jesus Christ. Well, we're gonna move on. I mean, I thought it was the LA Gladiators logo. It looks like the LA Gladiators logo a little bit when you just see the dino head. But no, it's just literally a fucking. Is that Barney?
It's
Is
Barney.
that what it is? Fucking hell, dude! Barney's the fucking goat. Barney's the greatest goat of all, the greatest fucking TV show of all time. Simply because of that ice cream episode, that made me terrified of bees and shit. There was like an episode where they went to the beach. I could recite pretty much a full Barney's TV show, like the whole thing, because I used to be a massive Barney fan. Okay, but listen. We're not going to go into Barney too much longer, so I'm sorry. You know, that's a boomer talk. That's boomer talk at this point, guys. That shit was in a DVD. Barney was on a goddamn DVD. Nobody fucking watches Barney anymore, bro. That's old news now. We're old. We're old boomers. Okay, we're gonna talk about something. Yeah, wait, it is true. It is true. We're gonna talk about something else. We'll go quick through this. We'll talk about the Valiant upsets real quick. We'll talk about it. It was on VHS as well, yeah. The Valiant qualifiers upsets. There were some big upsets in the Valiant qualifiers already. 3 teams are already out of the qualifiers. I think it was at the round of 16, or was it the round of 32? It might have been the round of 32, I think. Or sorry, Valorant, not Valiant. Yeah, sorry. Too easy to confuse those two, honestly. Too goddamn easy. TSM lost to Xset, surprisingly. People were saying that TSM looked like lost his shit. They said they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. But on top of that, there was a standout player. We did. Had an insane series on Viper. This guy absolutely fucking was cracked out of his goddamn mind. Had some amazing plays with his abilities. I mean, it's awesome to see this team get massively upset and all the TSM haters come out, because there's always TSM haters. You know what I'm saying? If you have an organization as big as TSM and as prominent as TSM, and if you have Wardell, you know, one of the best oppers in fucking Valorant, like, to be honest with you, in more popular figures in Valorant, like, it's kind of huge to see them lose in such, you know, a big upset against Xset. Also, 100 Thieves lost yesterday without Nitro. So Nitro's having a kid, so they had their stand-in player. They lost as well in a close series. T1 is also lost as well. So that's pretty much 3 massive organizations that have lost over the weekend. Telecom won, for those of you that don't know the org. And with Brax in the roster. A lot of these orgs that were kind of surprising to lose now, but I think the most surprising one was 100 Thieves. I think people thought that without Nitro, they'd still be able to do well, but like upon reflection, people realized that Nitro was like a pretty big part to 100 Thieves in what he does, because he's like their smoker. He sets up all that stuff on Omen and stuff, and that is a big part into why his team is so successful, is because of Nitro. So without him, without one of the former best Counter-Strike players in CSGO at the time, you know, without him on their team, it seems like they're a little bit lost. But it also looks like nowadays, it seems like we're kind of transitioning into this period where we're starting to go to the Zoomers. Like, it seems like in Valorant, we're trending away from top Counter-Strike pros. We're trending away from that, like, old washed-up gamers moment. And we're kind of trending towards, you know, the Zoomers are coming through. People are starting to recognize that. People have learned from Overwatch, from Counter-Strike, from other esports, that, okay, maybe we should invest. Maybe we should actually look at these Zoomers instead of just brushing them off. Even if they're rough, even if they're fucking rough, you could get a Diamond, basically. You could get a Stewie 2K. You can end up with any of these top players that are actually extremely valuable, Asuna. You could end up with all these really good players that could be key pieces on your roster for years to come, instead of looking at older players and stuff like that, which is probably what people should be doing. That's what people should be looking at this qualifier for, pretty much to see what teams are doing the best with no money. That's what you should be looking for, I think. I think those are the more prominent timelines. Obviously, that and the upsets are the 2 things I'm looking at least for Valorant. Now, the one that I want to talk about before we end the stream, and the one that I think we can have a good discussion on, is Guild Esports, an organization I didn't even fucking hear about until this year, basically, because they invested in Valorant. I'm not sure what other games they invested in the past. They reported a loss, apparently, of $3.7 million USD. 3.7 mil to start up their esports organization and get it running. That's AKA, so for those of you in the British ones, that was terrible. I'm sorry. I really do apologize for that one. 2.7 million pounds. This organization reported loss. That's what they said in their article on what we read. And they basically said that they had a sponsorship deal, apparently, that's 3.6 million pounds over 3 years. But in their first year of operation, in their first couple years of operation, they've lost $3.7 million. $3.7 million. This is exactly why you don't invest in esports, boys. Listen, I try to be a positive person. I try to be a positive Peter about this kind of stuff. But I don't think I can be. because just proven from Guild Esports that if you put in this kind of money, you're going to have to really either invest in the long term and hope it works out and just take massive fucking L's. You have to take massive fucking L's to the bottom. This is the opposite of Dogecoin and goddamn GME. This is to the bottom, guys. We're going to the core. You know what I'm saying? We're going to the goddamn core, boys. And it's just not that good. What do you guys think about Guild Esports, man? Like, I'd rather invest in fucking Dogecoin.
Yeah, it's so apparently it's David Beckham's team, basically.
Yeah.
He invested into it, but then they had to pay him to like use him as advertising for the team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how big esports is in London or Great Britain, that area.
It's like they're big into Call of Duty and stuff. They're not like massive. It's very grassroots. It's very grassroots, and that's kind of been a big concern for a lot of the British community, is that British people like suck at esports. That's been like a big thing for a while. Is they're just not good, like in Counter-Strike or in other games. Pretty much, it just seems like apparently Sam said Rocket League is huge over there, but it seems like they just haven't been. At least at FPS is very good for their entire like span of competing in esports. You know, they have 4 teams. Apparently, Guild Esports does have 4 teams in FIFA, Rocket League, Valorant, and Fortnite now. So they're kind of getting invested. But I've seen their logo, bro. It just looks like the GameStop or like the GameCube fucking old ass logo. Like, look it up. It just doesn't look good. Like, it just looks like a 3D like disgusting logo.
Yeah,
it's
just
just
like it's from the 80s.
No, it is. I mean, listen, I understand trying to create your own like company or organization, but it just seems like for a lot of these ones that are just kind of like up and coming ones that have just not very good brand, like it's hard. It's not easy to make a top organization these days. You can't just come out and be like, I want to be the next Optic. I want to be the next Liquid. You know what I mean? You have to have something backing it and behind it. Kind of like 100 Thieves with Nadeshot. Kind of like TSM with Reginald. You know, you got to have a big personality behind it that's not fucking David Beckham. Like, what the fuck does David Beckham know about esports, bro? Like, this guy's a goddamn actor. You know, it's like, what the hell is he going to do for us in this goddamn scene of esports? Okay, well, just besides putting money in.
They have a FIFA team, apparently. EA FIFA.
Oh, great.
So I guess that's got to be big for David Beckham.
That's the only thing.
that really is. Also, wait, did I actually just miscategorize David Beckham? Oh, my God. I actually just said he was an actor instead of a soccer player. Holy shit.
Dingus.
What am I doing?
Everyone knows Bend it like Beckham.
I know. I'm sorry. I actually just said actor. I apologize for anybody that's pissed off at that. But, like, I don't think Guild Esports is... Like, you can't be the next FaZe Clan. You can't... That's what... Like we said with Immortals Gaming Club. They tried putting so much money in, and they're not getting, like, any output. Like, they're not getting any reception. It just seems like it's because it's so... If they kept Noah Winston, you know, even though they were on the downturn... It's like, if you keep your heart and soul, if you prove you're not a fucking shitty company just trying to make money, then okay, then maybe there's a chance for you. You know what I mean? If there's like heart and soul and passion behind your organization, your company, then it can go on to becoming something big like FaZe Clan, like Optic or whatever. But we haven't seen it happen. Like the only startup, quote unquote startup we've seen is Nadeshot with 100 Thieves. But that was literally like Nadeshot's baby that he, you know, had a master plan and had the roadmap to make it work, right? It doesn't seem like, you know, in terms of every other like company and organization, we haven't seen one kind of just pop up and be that massive company without spending years and years and years building it up, like Team Liquid, or you know, like basically Immortals Gaming Club is what Team Liquid is. You know, they want to be like Team Liquid. They want to be Team Liquid, but the thing is, Team Liquid has a 10-year history. Like, they've been around for a long, long time, and Immortals Gaming Club kind of hopped in the middle of it and tried to spend, and then they became a heartless organization that had no soul after they lost Noah Winston, because their only guy that looked like he had passion was Noah Winston. Like, in terms of that company, it's just gone downhill, because it doesn't seem like they have passion, and they don't have any hope. Like, if I ever made a fucking esports team, if I ever actually invested in an esports team, it's gotta come from love. It's gotta come from fucking not wanting to make a paycheck, because you're probably not going to. Like, you're probably going to operate in the red. That's fucking how it is making an esports team. So you at least have to show you care. You at least have to show you care. If you don't at least do that, then get the fuck out of our scene, IGC. You know what I mean? Get the fuck out of our scene. I think Guild Esports is on the right trend, and they seem to be kind of going in that direction where they're investing. But to me, they kind of have to prove to be a big organization that they are. They're kind of like the new kid to the fucking to the block, and they're getting into it a little bit late. You know what I mean? So it's like, right now you're investing in the future.
They're getting into Valorant, so I think that's like a big first step is getting into like a emerging scene. And,
yeah, you're relying on it to kind of pop off.
Yeah, this is their second big like shooter game besides Fortnite.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right.
We still have yet to see from them, and
no,
we said before, we don't really know much about the UK scene. So maybe they're going to be the big guys on that in that country.
Yeah, I think the British scene is definitely, and the UK scene is definitely underrated. Like, I definitely think there's a lot of people that are fans in the in the UK and stuff like that. They're actually massive, and they're very loyal and passionate. Like, that's the thing that you can tell. The cool thing about gaming is you can kind of look from like country to country to country and see where their passions lie and see like them as people. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you go to Japan, like into FGCs, that they have so much love and so much passion towards FGC and stuff like that, right? Like, it's awesome to see that in Japan. It's awesome to see that there. In America, I mean, to be honest, Call of Duty's pretty big in America, and even though like the fan base isn't necessarily as big as League of Legends, that's where a lot of the like passionate, like loyal fans are definitely in Call of Duty and stuff like that. And even in the UK, even in that area, like if you go to some of the tournaments that were played in Britain and stuff. We've seen some awesome events happen over there where there's hilarious chants, a very passionate, drunk crowd that you just love to see. And I think that, you know, that there is a scene in the UK that can be brought and prominent, but I don't know if it's going to be Guild Esports to bring that up. Maybe we could get him on the show. David Beckham. Maybe we could get David Beckham on the fucking show, bro.
Maybe.
No, or the owner of Guild Esports, at least. Maybe that'd be awesome to talk about. I think we could. There's a potential we actually get esports owners on. But the thing is, it's like tough to get somebody on that's not going to just kind of spew bullshit. Like, I think the only way we have an esports team guy or like owner or whatever on our show is if they don't speak bullshit and they actually say 100% facts. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the problem is that everybody's trying to kind of rip money out of these investors' hands, and they're trying to kind of keep it tied up, their mouths shut. There's obviously trade secrets or whatever. Like, they want to keep that shit locked down. But it would be awesome if we could actually have a open-ended like conversation, no holds bars, like fucking 100%. Like, this is how it is. This is how much money we're losing. Like, if we can have that conversation with somebody, that would be awesome. Like, that would be like, that's my biggest goal, I think, coming up for this year is if we could have an actual conversation with either an investing firm or with some sort of esports head, like Nadeshot or something, that we could talk about the actual downsides of it. But I'm going to still rep my voice. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to still rep the Atlanta FaZe. You know what I'm saying? We can rep them up. We can rep the boys, even though that probably would deter. Yeah, Hastro, Hex, or Nadeshot. I mean, that'd be awesome. Maybe I'll reach out to them and see what happens. But I think that's the show for today, guys. We had some other topics to go on, but I mean, we can call it. It's fuck it Friday. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's fuck it Friday, gang. Fuck it. Fuck it, boys. We'll see you later. See you next Monday. We'll catch you then. Thank you to I'll say thanks to everybody for the week. Thank you to Siren, our producing manager. Thank you to Alberto, our director. Thank you to Samantha, our research director / research head. Thank you to Anthony Max for being on the show with me. And thanks for Slasher for coming on today. That was a fucking awesome interview for like an hour. That was probably the longest interview we've had yet, and he had a lot of awesome shit to say, honestly. He's a very smart guy. And to be honest, I respect him a lot. I don't want to tell him that. You know what I'm saying? Don't tell him that. But I mean, I respect him a lot. He's a very, intelligent guy. He's been around for a while, and he cares about the scene. And that, I think, is more important than anything, And on that bombshell and on that note, see you guys next week. See you guys next Monday. We'll announce the guests this weekend. Hopefully we don't have any cancellations. Pray. This is the first week we had like multiple cancellations, basically. So see you guys next week.
We're drinking these Mountain Dews on Monday?
Yeah, we have to go to the gas station though. We have to go get more. We have to get the ones I'm missing, and I have to get Max the Mahi Blast.
We have to get like the exclusive ones at Valiant Speedway too.
Oh yeah, we have to. So should we do that on Monday then?
Like a damn Taco Bell run.